Why, hello, everybody. If you are watching, hi, this is Dr. Amanda Hellman, and I am on today for our new week of executive functioning skills. And this is going to be all about one of my favorite areas. It's actually a key for executive functioning or brain functioning, and it is called goal-directed persistence. In other words, goal setting. And persistence is all about continuous movement. And one of the biggest things when it comes to really just anything hello there. Hi, Lorianne. When it comes to goal-directed persistence, it really is about setting appropriate goals. Sometimes you've probably heard of SMART goals, which I'll talk about, but it's more than that. It's actually just looking at what is it that you want to do. And most of us get so focused on the outcome that we forget there's a process. There's a process to get to the outcome. And so we always want specific. I've been an educator for years. So specific is what exactly does it look like and sound like? And when we look at M, if you've heard of this, I'm just going to give an example, Zen Measurable. So how do we measure it? Is it based on a checklist? Do we write it down? And then you have appropriate, and that is, or achievable. You can have appropriate, like, is it actually going to happen? Do I have it set up for success? And is it something that can be done in short increments? We have R, really is, you can say relatable, reachable. Is it reasonable? Can we actually get it finished? And then T, time. Now, I usually always look at it as this. Say, for example, you have a goal, and perhaps your goal is to work out during the week. Now, if you're at 0 minutes of working out, sometimes people have this lofty goal of going 120 minutes, right, or 3 hours, and they want to do it every day for the whole week. But the baseline, and you'll all know where your baseline is, if it's at 0 minutes, and then I always say, well, are you going to get there? How are you going to feel if you don't get to that? So if you're at 0 and you want to be at 120 minutes, that's your later outcome, perhaps. But what would be reasonable for now? So maybe it is that you want to do 7 times a week for 2 hours, for example. But perhaps to start off, it might be 10 minutes 3 times a week. And it might be, I'm going to the gym, or I'm going to walk outside 10 minutes 3 times a week, early in the morning, and write it on my Google Calendar and check mark it when I'm finished, right? That's measurable, specific. It tells me how long. And what happens is then each week you look at, well, how do I move forward? So then when you look at, well, okay, I did 10 minutes. And I usually say it takes at least a whole good month to really get consistent. And then after you get the month or so, then you can tweak it and say, okay, I've had 3 or 4 weeks where I've had 3 10-minute sessions. Now I can move on to perhaps 15 minutes or 20. But what happens is some of us are more visionary, or you're detailed. If you can miss the details, or you can miss the vision, and you really need both when you set goals. And so when we're looking at goal-directed persistence, it's getting small increments of consistency and then bumping it up based on how we're doing. And the great thing is that can keep you accountable. I always say if you set it way too high and then you miss it, then you might feel like you're not successful. You always want to have a goal that's successful. One of the good things is that for brain functioning, when we actually set specific goals to get us towards where we want to go, the direction we're headed, it's actually one of the key areas of regulation. There's 4 keys. And even in the research, I used to do a lot of research for kids with autism, kids with disabilities, kids of different backgrounds. And one big area that we find, even though there's not specific executive functionings, perhaps, that identify disability, I'm just putting it out there, but there are some of the executive functionings or brain functions that help us actually as we have after school outcomes. And that would be the metacognition I've talked about, which is thinking about your thinking, regulating emotions, some of those higher order thinkings like self-regulation, and goal setting is part of it. Being able to have identify outcomes or goals and set small increments and get there is a huge key. It's a key for what you want to do in life in different areas. It could be in health, wellness, it could be in your career, but you set small goals and then you can tweak it. That's the good part about it, is that any good goal is to be tweaked after we're successful. And so when it comes to goal-directed persistence, you want something that you can do. And I always say, I used to work with kids. Hi there, Heidi. How are you? Nice to see you. And hi there, Roz, and whoever else is watching, please say hi. I actually can get that on, it's not showing on my, it's showing on one part of my comment. I have like 3 different screens. Gotta love it. But when it comes to any of this, you really want to have things that are very achievable. And what I mean is, think about it. Even for kids, kids don't go from, well, maybe if and you're unique, maybe if you're out there and I say the story, but kids don't go from all of a sudden just laying on the floor to walking, across the room. I mean, that's very rare. It takes some time to get to the crawling, to get to start stepping, the same thing in our lives. And so you want to make it successful. So even for a kid, if they're starting to do a little walk, I might be like, yay, they started wobbly, but they did it and then they fell. That's still successful. So if you're going from 0 minutes of something, then maybe 1 minute is where you're at. And I used to teach kids with behavior, kids with disability, and we would set it like that. If a kid, really had a lot of behaviors and they had 20 behaviors each day over 5 days, then my goal would be perhaps it's 19 behaviors. We want 1 less for so many weeks, because that's success. Success is having some sort of movement, whether it be you ended up, and even for push-ups, like, well, think about that, push-ups. Maybe you're going, instead of 30 seconds, you're going to go to 40 seconds with a push-up, or a plank, right? You're going to take small increments and success and celebrate it. And usually I say start at your baseline. So if you're at 0 minutes, maybe it's 3 minutes, 5, whatever it is, but it's small. And if you excel at it, sometimes people set those goals. It's not that you don't want to have higher goals, but what it is you're meeting you where you are, and you're giving a little bit of challenge, but not too much that you would never do anything. And so when it comes to goal persistent anything, we want to actually have success. And so, for example, I gave this example before. If I'm looking at going to the gym and I had 0 minutes and I want to get to 120, but I know that I've been there for 5 minutes and can walk, great. Then do 5 minutes, maybe plus 1 minute, do 6 minutes, 3 times a week, because you're giving yourself success. And guess what? When we actually are successful, we're more likely to do it again. And so after 3 or 4 weeks, or maybe after 2 weeks, you're like, yeah, I had it set for 6 minutes, but I've been doing 10 minutes for the last 3 weeks. Well, that's great. Your baseline, your data, like you're showing, okay, I actually can do this. So then you can maybe bump it up a few extra minutes. And the great thing about it is where you can be. So I wanted to come on here and talk about this. I have some fun stories about bloopers with goal-directed persistence that I'll be into. If you have any questions about it, I would love to hear them. It's great to see all of you watching. But goal-directed is really making it enough, making it manageable, appropriate, and that you can actually be successful. Otherwise, you might stop the goal before you even get started. All right. So what is your goal for today? What does it look like, sound like? What's one area of your life, there's a billion, we always are growing, that you want to focus on that is specific, measurable, and that you know it's appropriate for you. So I will be on later. I hope to see all of you later. If you missed this, come check it out. I talked about goals, how to set it, and some examples. All right, I'll see you soon this week again. Bye.